about you all audiophiles, but when winter's here, more time is spent inside, it's a little bit colder outside. There's a lot of people out there that start to complain a little bit about the weather. But as an audiophile, I actually get excited. There's less chores, and I get to spend more time indoors listening to great music without the worry that I gotta hurry up and get outside, mow the lawn or trim the trees or wash the car. So without further ado, I'd like to talk about my most recent audiophile experience. I'm having a lot of fun in here. As you can see, it's kind of an eclectic room. It's actually my son's room that we're checking out here as the secondary audio system. And again, we're having a lot of fun in here. This is really a follow-up to my review on the JBL L100 Classics. And they were the Mark 1s, not the Mark 2s. I think that they're fairly similar other than their crossover design, but I really wanted to just provide some brief thoughts. Hopefully this is brief. We're going to keep this one under 45 minutes. My other ones have kind of gotten a little long from all my rambling, and here we go again, right? But I just wanted to provide my personal experience with the Revival Audio Atalante 5s and hopefully make some comparison to the JBL L100 Classics too, because they to me, they seem like they could potentially be cross-shopped. I mean, it's a similar speaker design. It's that classic look and that nostalgic look. Big box from, back in the 60s, 70s, a little bit of the 80s, I guess. And I think there's a lot of people that gravitate to that style, including myself, especially in like an ancillary type system. The other reason I think that they can be cross-shopped is the price is very similar. If you look online, those JBL L100 Classics, if you're looking at them new, are probably, close to that $5,000 mark. And the Atalante 5s are close to that $5,000 mark. And if you remember in my JBL L review, I was talking about the Harbreaths, the KLH. I don't have a lot of good access to hear or see these where I live. And so I have to make some assumptions based off of, the other reviews that I'm hearing out there. So hopefully this is helpful, at least to share my experience. If you all can't, similar to me, if you all can't get into a dealer to audition these things easily and you're making your decision off of compiling various thoughts out there, as I do many times, I always think that these online reviews and these YouTube reviews are very helpful. So if you have any questions, pop them down in the chat. If you wouldn't mind sharing your experience, if you've had the JBLs and or the Atalante 5s, and share your comparisons. I mean, all of the good or bad, all of those tend to help each other out, so help the community out. But just jumping in here, my experience with the JBLs, and let me share, because part of this goes back to my experience with the JBLs, but let me share a little bit about my setup and why I have the setup that I do in here. One, it's not a big room in here, so we're not listening to music at loud volumes where these big of speakers would overload the room, because that's a potential issue. I mean, technically a bookshelf should be in this room, but I'm just not a huge fan of bookshelves because they don't have that same, to me anyway, they don't have that same effect of just drawing you into the music and just kind of surrounding you with music just because of their size, right? And so I even though they're a little big for the room, I gravitate to one, the looks, but also just the sound and size and scale of these larger speakers. So the JBL L100 Classic was kind of a happenstance purchase. We got them here and got a decent deal on them. And so we decided, why not try them out? Back to my system setup. So with those JBLs, I was trying to get, to me, I'm more sensitive to higher frequencies. and listening fatigue. And so those JBLs, they've got that titanium tweeter, if that's part of it. To me, they were just a little bit fatiguing. I could listen to them for a half an hour and maybe an hour, and they just kind of bothered my ears. And so, as cool as they look, I'd walk by the room, I'm like, gosh, those are so cool. They look great. They look like they sound great. I just want to go in there and listen to music. And I would, and my listening session would last, 30 minutes, an hour, maybe an hour and a half tops, even if I had that time to do that. And then I would just kind of get fatigued. And it's not like they were sibilant or anything like that. It's just, there was something about them that the energy in that higher frequencies with those speakers. I tried to tame them down and to no avail. So, they've got that little attenuator on there. I played with that, tried to turn that all the way down on the mids and the highs, and that made them sound a little wonky. I think that like where they were intended to be set on the main little line or mark from the factory is really where they sounded best. But again, doing that, they sounded better and more accurate and blended better to me, but it was just fatiguing. And so what I did, I listened with the grills on. I pointed them away from me. Definitely have them pointed away from you. And the JBL manual will say that too. But I got a McIntosh product because they're known for being a little bit more warm and a little bit more laid back. I got the MA352, which you can see behind me, which actually I think that is less warm than like the 8900 or 8950 that I had. But it's a nice piece. And then the other thing that I did, again, trying to warm up those JBLs, is replace the tubes in them. So I actually went with the Gold Lions tubes in the McIntosh product, and that helped a little bit too. It just made it more of a softer, a little bit more laid back, a little bit more warmer. But what I noticed most with the Gold Lions is that it really gave it more depth, more three-dimensionality over the stock McIntosh tubes. I think that was probably the biggest change. We went with a turntable. I actually changed the turntable out in here too to a Technics 1200G. And again, searching the internet, because I don't have the opportunity to look for these, tried to find the warmest cartridge that I could find, and ended up landing on a Soundsmith Carmen. I believe that's what it is. It's the Soundsmith Carmen. Again, known for its just kind of rich, warmth, laid back characteristics. And so, as you can see, I was just trying to tame those JBLs down, and that kind of will play into my experience here. Is, I think I was overcompensating for trying to get those speakers to sound the way that I want them. So anyway, moving on to the Revival, what I had found, I found an opportunity. One of the dealers that I work with, they're about 400 or 500 miles away, but they're great people to work with. They had an outgoing pair that they were selling as a demo pair, so I was actually able to, on a trip, go in there and listen to them for an hour and a half or so. And I was actually amazed. One, the biggest thing I was looking for is something that was less fatiguing than those JBLs. So my experience with these here, I actually did end up purchasing a pair. I actually ended up getting a new pair shipped to me, and they're about the same size as the JBLs. Again, another characteristic why people might want to cross shop them. It might be an inch wider, and I can put these up, throw these dimensions up if that's helpful, but they're about an inch wider, maybe an inch deeper, maybe an inch taller. So they're a little bit bigger of a box. They're also heavier than the JBLs, but they worked in our space. We didn't have to make a whole lot of changes or furniture movement, and again, we don't have that in that capability in this room. One of the things that I noticed when I was demoing them is that they were a very, I'll say, non-fatiguing speaker. And again, that was the biggest thing that I walked away from the demo with. When I got these things here and set up and listened to for quite a few listening sessions, that's when the magic really started to happen with these things. I was actually blown away at the quality of these speakers. So if you all have watched my other reviews, you know that I'm a Wilson Audio fanboy. I just really like their natural, yet detailed, romantic, very natural way of presenting music the way that they do. And they're still very detailed speakers, but they do it in a very non-fatiguing way. And so I'm gravitated to that kind of a sound, and these Revival Audio Atalante 5s fulfill that requirement in spades. Like, I'm actually amazed at the sound and the quality of these speakers, especially for the price point. I mean, these are way under Wilson speakers. There's some drawbacks, of course, in the design of the speaker with the large front baffle, but they've done a really good job of building these each where there's a mirror image of the speaker, so they're trying to minimize the reflections on that front baffle. But going back to the sound of these, and again, this is with the McIntosh 352, with the Technics 1200G, with that Soundsmith cartridge. It's leaning towards that more laid back, romantic sound. But these Atalante 5s, it's amazing. The biggest thing that I noticed here that I didn't necessarily notice in the demo was their very surrounding speakers. They draw you into the music, and the three-dimensionality of these speakers is off the charts. I mean, it's almost up there on, to me personally, on Wilson level. I pulled the Wilson Sabrinas in here just to kind of make a comparison or whatever. They're not quite to that level, of course, and nor should they be for the price difference. But I would be extremely happy with these speakers over the Wilson Sabrinas, not even having made that comparison. If I had them side by side, yeah, I'd probably pick the Wilsons. But just having these Atalante in here, they have a lot of similar traits. That warmth, that body, that romantic sound to the music. It's almost like, if I can put it into an analogy, it's like going into your favorite restaurant. The lights are dim. There's candlelight there. There's great conversation with your dining partner. Maybe you're sitting by the fireplace. With this setup, it's that kind of experience in here. I found myself actually getting physically fatigued this time because I was sitting so long, because I just wanted to keep listening to more music. And I know part of that's from having new gear, right? But a big part of it is just like the music just drew me in, the 3-dimension. It surrounded me with music. They're much easier to get to image correctly than the JBLs were. I mean, I couldn't really get those JBLs to image correctly. They're not a mirror image, and I was even pointing lasers at the tweeters, trying to get them exactly as close as I could to being a centered type of a speaker. It was just, and part of that too is having them pointed out so they weren't fatiguing, which again is like how JBL recommends in their manual to set them out, to just have them straightforward if you're within a certain, I think it's 10 feet of a listening distance. The Revivals, you want to point in a little bit, kind of like setting up the Wilsons. I think they recommend a 30-degree tilt in towards your listening position. And you doing that, you just get great detail. Again, you could get more detail out of them. I'm using tubes, of course, and again, the Gold Lion tubes, which are a little bit more tubey. There's a whole long conversation that somebody could have about that, what the tubey sound is, but it's again a little bit more laid back, but still great detail that you're getting out of these Revival Atalantes. Great imaging. That's what we were talking about. It sounds like certain sounds are, coming from way outside of the speaker. They disappear much better than what I was getting with the JBLs. And almost, on certain tracks, disappear completely. That speaker seems so three-dimensional. You kind of close your eyes and you can actually, seems like you can reach out and touch the artists or whatever, you're there. They're just an amazing speaker. I'm very, very excited about the purchase of these things. It's not an old school sound. I'd say that this is definitely a new age hi-fi speaker. I've heard that like the Harbeths, the Lintons, they're more of the old school British monitor type sound. Again, don't take my word on that. I have not heard them. It's just from the reviews I've heard. The Revivals are a new, detailed, three-dimensional, romantic sounding speaker. I felt like they, part of the difference is when I heard them in the demos, they had them on the floor, on their stands that you can get to mount on the bottom to have them tilted back. I brought them up I actually used the JBL stands, and I've got some videos that I can show here, but that brought them up off of the floor and it angled them back towards my listening position. And I think that they work very well with that setup. I actually used the JBL L100. I'll pop that up what those were. I think it was the JBL 150 stands. It wasn't the 120 stands. The Revival Audios are heavier than the JBLs, and so it'll put it over the weight limit of the 120s. Don't use that if you go with this strategy or setup option. Use the 150 stands. But I like the look because, one, it gets them up closer to your ear. It tilts them back, so there's a little bit of a time alignment benefit there. And it just helps that speaker become more clear and more accurate. Revival Audio has their own stands, which could make them even more clear and more accurate, getting them closer to your ear. I just didn't like, in my personal opinion, I just didn't like the look of the speakers on the stand. You have this massive speaker way up in the air. It's like putting a truck on a lift kit and putting little tires on it to me. Which, if you like that look, more power to you. It's just not to my personal taste. I didn't like all of the space under it. I mean, I know you're supposed to be able to put album collections under the speaker stands of those Revival speaker stands, which makes it look better. I just wasn't a huge fan. I figured, if you're going to buy these speakers and put them way up in the air, like, why not buy a tower speaker at that point? Just my personal thought on it. And the other thing, like, there's a lot of airspace under those Revival stands, and then you can see the cords draping down, and you can see that on certain review posts out there on the internet. I didn't like the cord draping down behind it. These are little things. I just like the classic look of them either sitting on the floor or, better yet, on these JBL stands. I mean, I think it looks really sharp, and I'll show some pictures of that. And so anyway, that's kind of my experience. I mean, again, the biggest thing with these sound-wise that I notice is just that rich, engaging, organic, non-fatiguing, three-dimensional sound is a summary to the sound of these things. The bass is tighter than the JBLs. The JBLs in here were a little bit boomy. I moved them around a little bit and trying to get rid of that. And it was just kind of a little bit boom. These are quick bass, tight bass. There's more bass to these, and there's more like realistic texture to it. Like, drums actually sound like someone's hitting a material versus just a boom sound. You know what I mean? There's more depth to the image. Like, you can really hear a sound stage depth to these speakers. Like, the drums seem like they're further back than the singer or the sax player or the trumpet player. When people are shuffling around on stage, you can hear that, as you can with the Wilsons. It's very cool. surreal experience, kind of like I made the analogy in one of my videos of putting on those 3D goggles for gaming. It's kind of like that for listening to music with the Revival audio. So I'm extremely happy with them, and hopefully that helps when you're searching for a type of sound, if this might fit the bill. Again, if you're somebody who wants or needs, due to hearing issues or personal taste, a speaker that's like seems more clear or tipped up or more energy in that upper frequency range, the JBLs might be a better way for you to go. But I'm just getting, for my personal taste, more of everything out of these JBLs. The bass goes so low, it's almost like that there's a subwoofer, and part of that's in the small, because of it's in the smaller room. No need for a subwoofer. A subwoofer would like overwhelm the space. I saw in some reviews where people wanted these speakers. They had the Atalante 3s, the bookshelf version. They wanted these speakers, and they were asking their dealers, and they were asking people online, I really want these, but I have a smaller space and I need to put them up against the wall. That's the way that we've got them. It's not ideal because there is so much bass energy in them. Like it can easily overwhelm the soundscape. And I think the way that we've got them set in here too, it's a little bit overwhelming. If you can pull them out into the room, if I could, we don't have the space for it in this little room. If I could, I'd move them same as I got my Wilsons, 2 feet, maybe 3 feet off of the back wall. And I think that would be ideal for these. So, but the way that we've got them set up in here close to the wall, I do have to plug one of the ports in the back. They give you foam plugs. With both of the plugs open, it didn't sound right. There was just way too much bass energy. It was overwhelming. You lost that detail and you lost that focus in that mid-range. But I've got it now set up pretty darn good. Again, tilted in, one foam plug plugged. I tried both of the plugs plugged, but it almost like killed the bass energy and that low bass energy that I was getting, so I wasn't a huge fan of that. What else did I want to say about these? So I had 2 pairs of them, and I'll show up a video of this. I'm really enjoying the sound. One of the things that I think that, if Revival is watching this, maybe watch that quality control a little bit closer. The first pair that I received, fantastic. The finish on it was expert level. It's like top quality furniture builder. They're very smooth. There's that band that goes around the middle of the speaker. It was very flush. It was almost like you couldn't even feel it. The lacquer on it was applied so well, and the sanding process was done so well. It almost had an iridescent look to it, and I'll pop a picture of that up to it. Just gorgeous. And like a person that pays attention to details and like the quality of builds of everything, really, but especially like furniture, when you're looking at these wooden boxes, I couldn't find a blemish in those speakers. My second pair was a little bit disappointing. They still sound the same, but there was a lot different about it. And I'll throw up a video here, and then we can talk a little bit more about it. But just looking at the finishing of the first pair of Atalante 5s that I received, the finishing on the first pair is much better, I noticed, than the second pair I got for whatever reason. It's a much smoother surface, and it looks like the sanding and the clear that they put on the walnut veneer is a much higher quality. It looks like more time was spent on the first pair for whatever reason. I don't know if you can hear it. Just my hand going over it. It's very smooth. You can't really feel much of the wood grain in here. And this inlay is very flush with this. I mean, it's almost got like an iridescent look to it, that the clear is so well applied. You can barely feel that inlay. Let me take you to the new pair. Oh, one of the other things, which is interesting and kind of a bummer, these say made in France and the new ones don't say made in France. So here's the new pair of Atalante 5s that I received. I do like the new grills. They've got beveled edges on them, so that's pretty cool. It actually makes it look like a narrower speaker with the new grills on it. So I definitely like that about it. But the finishing quality on the new pair, for whatever reason, is nowhere near as smooth. It's like they skipped a few sanding stages and didn't apply as much clear with sand on it too. And being working with wood projects, you really notice the craftsmanship and attention to details on that first pair. It's just amazing how nice they were. The finishing work on them was, and the veneer was on them, but I don't know if you can hear it, just my hand going over it. It's not like it's rough, but you can definitely feel more of the wood grain. So if you like that natural look to speakers and the natural feel to speakers, more like a wood project, you'll like these better. There isn't as much sheen, it's more of a flat look than my previous pairs, which was just something to note. But you can really feel like this, like some places here, this inlay is recessed. It's not super flush with it. And this is like really coarse. Again, like this isn't gonna affect the sound of these. It's just kind of a bummer that the finishing isn't as nice as my first pair for whatever reason. I mean, you can almost even see that it's not in there as nice, or not finished as nice anyway. Still a pretty speaker, but just wanted to point those out. In summary, you know, the sanding process wasn't as good. It was more of a rough finish. You know, the lacquer on the back anyway was a little bit splotchy. I don't know if you can see it on this video, but there's this little routed edge that they have going around. You can see where some stain or lacquer is in this part and this part, but it's not sprayed in here. And the other speaker has parts that don't have lacquer in it. It just like you're sitting, these are minor things, guys, but you're sitting looking at the speaker from your distance, and you can, like, that's kind of frustrating for a speaker in this price range to not have the finish applied as nicely as it should be applied. Some people might like the rougher finish, which, you know, I see that too. I mean, it's kind of more of a raw wood type finish, more of a natural type piece. You know, I don't think I have anything about it. It's just amazing like how different they were. I looked in the porthole, the glue is different on my first pair. This one has like a yellow wood glue in there. The first one had clear glue on it, which is weird. My first one had the speaker terminal on the back of it that said made in France. These ones don't say made in France. And anyway, I actually reached out to Revival, and they're extremely responsive, like great communication working with these folks, especially if they're in such a different time zone than I am here in the US. But they gave me what kind of lacquer they used on here. It's a water-based lacquer, so I'm just going to take a modeling brush and fix it. I just shouldn't have to do that with this price point of a speaker. And they all may not be like that. Again, my first pair was very different from this pair. So I guess that's the only downside that I see with these Atalante 5s is maybe the quality control. It's a very growing company. I mean, I just saw their New Year's post, and they're in 60 countries now, which is amazing. So some of that might be they're cranking these things out faster than they used to be. Just, you know, minor details. Again, they still sound like a fantastic speaker. It's nothing that I would be like, oh, the quality is so bad that I'm gonna look elsewhere. It's not like that. It's just minor little details I think that Revival could pay attention to. what else? I think that's about it. Hopefully that helps you all in your decisions out there. I guess if I was going to say only one other downside too is why I had two pairs, because the first one was damaged, but they were just shipped UPS, and I think that technically these things should be shipped as Wilsons are on a pallet. You know, it's a little bit more money, but it's a pain in the butt to exchange these things. They're like 80 pounds, and to box them back up in 3 separate boxes. The boxes came just destroyed, like giant holes right through 3 layers of box, and it damaged the other ones, and they were dropped, and it smashed them. The little mounting plate that they've got into the bottom of the speaker is just crazy that something this caliber was shipped and treated like that. But what do you do, you know? So I think that's it. If I think of anything else, I'll do a follow-up video. I won't put any sound comparisons as I do on this. Not sure if YouTube likes that, but I can do a separate video and just maybe do some sound clips from what I have taken with the JBLs, and do the same song with the revivals. I'll try and do that for y'all. But if you have any questions for me, pop them down there. If I missed anything, if y'all think I said something that's not true or not in alignment with what you're experiencing, pop it down in the comment section. I'd love to hear your results with the Revival Atalantes. But in summary, closing out this video, me personally, unless you like that orange grill or that bright blue grill of the JBLs, I just think that there was a lot of quality, or I wouldn't say quality, I would say because the JBLs I thought were a good quality speaker. I think there's a lot of cost conscious things that they did in the design of that speaker, not having it be mirror imaged, made in China now. You know, and again, nothing against that. Even the smaller JBLs are mirror imaged, and again, because it's easier for them to just make one speaker. When I had to return the Revivals, they wouldn't let me just, there was only one speaker that was damaged, but they wouldn't let me just return one. Thank goodness, because they're so different. They're a matched pair from the factory, so that's kind of cool that like the craftsman, the hand-built craftsmanship of these things it's you know, they're wanting them both to be the same. They're tested from the factory to sound the same. So you know, and that's not true with the JBLs. They make one speaker technically. Revival's making 2 speakers with the Atalante 5. Again, not to bash the JBL, they were a great speaker. Again, these are just more to my taste. But I'm very happy with the decision. I'm glad that you know, we had the JBLs for about a year, maybe a little under a year. I'll probably have these speakers, hopefully, for 10 years, maybe 20 years is kind of what I'm thinking. You know, I mean, it's one of those pieces I actually bought to enjoy now, but, you know, I think that my son's into music, and hopefully he'll take those with him for his next journeys in life down the road. I still get quite a few years of enjoying them, so thanks for that. Oh, real quick, the other thing that came up is the grills were even different. These have a nice bevel. This is kind of a new thing that they're doing. So if you are demoing your Atalante 5s and they have the square grill, they probably won't come with the square grill. So if you like that, just be aware the new grill is going to be a little bit different. The magnetics to these are fantastic, very powerful magnetics to it. I usually pull off that top section when I'm listening to it. Just nice to easily pull it on and pop it off. The JBLs are on pegs, and so those pegs will, especially if you're from or have experience from pairs from back in the 70s, you always pulled those grills off, put them back on, pulled them off, put them back on, pulled them off, put them back, and eventually they're just falling off and fall onto the floor. Hopefully these won't do that with that magnet, but just an overall great speaker. I think that's it. That's enough of my rambling. I had to keep it under 45 minutes. We're at 30 minutes right now. It'll be a little longer once I add the clips. Again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. Happy listening. Enjoy this cold weather out there. Inside listening to your favorite tunes. See ya. So one of the items that I missed entirely in the first part of the video was the dynamics of the Atalante 5. The dynamics of the speaker are fantastic. I mean, from soft passages to loud passages, there's a very nice, dramatic, dynamic range. I mean, even in some songs, I don't listen loud, maybe about that 25% mark on the Mac. But there's been certain songs that'll just really just erupt with loud parts of music or loud passages. And sometimes, especially if I'm in that listening zone, sometimes they'll actually startle me, which is kind of a funny thing about listening to these speakers. But I definitely didn't want to miss that. The dynamic range of these speakers in my setup is really quite fascinating, actually. Clarification on, comparing these to the JBLs. Are the JBLs a bad speaker? Absolutely not. I think they're actually a really good speaker. There's just differences that I was searching for that the Revival Atalantes filled, mainly just that musicality and non-fatiguing nature about them. Do I think you should sell your JBLs and move to a Revival? I think you should definitely listen to them if you can, because they are definitely different. I mean, obviously that's what I did. I did end up selling the JBLs and moving to these, and I think that this will be a longer term purchase. But if you are out after absolute clarity, if you're using the JBLs for movies, they might be better for movies just because of that vocal clarity and that intelligibility that you would get out of them with movies. I think you lose some of the clarity, the absolute clarity, again, that energy and those higher frequencies. I think you lose that with the Atalante. So just keep that in mind. I mean, even my wife came in here and listened to a few songs. She's not like a huge listener, but I do appreciate her opinion. She even said, I don't think they're quite as clear. I don't think they're as clear as the system downstairs, which of course is the Wilson system. And part of that might be good and part of that might be bad. To me, it's a good thing. I mean, I come up here and, it's just, again, the music draws you in and it's non-fatiguing and it's just a romantic, rich presentation. The vocals have and music in general, but the vocals definitely have a nice texture to them. This softer, warmer texture to the vocals that are just non-fatiguing, to the texture in sax and trumpets. It's really a cool thing that these Atalantes are doing. So I definitely wanted to make that clarification. Would I like the Revivals? I also made the comparison to the Wilson Sabrinas. Would I like the Revivals in lieu of a Sabrina? Possibly. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to the Wilson Sabrina that the Atalantes offer, as far as like that warmth and body and richness, with also detail. I just think that the Wilson Sabrinas are, on another level. I went from the JBL's great speaker. I feel like the Revivals just took it up to another level and expanded on the things I was after, as far as 3D image, better imaging, less fatigue, more romantic musical presentation. And so that's, why I made that move. Going from the Revivals to the Sabrinas, it's kind of like taking all of those things to another level again, right? Like more detail, more clarity, more separation of instruments, more 3D image, better imaging. They're harder to set up than the Revivals are. The Revivals are actually a pretty forgiving speaker to set up, which is great, and a nice wide soundstage. So I like that. I think the Revivals dig a little deeper than the Sabrina. There's more of a surrounding image to the Revivals. But again, with Wilson, if you've ever heard, they're just, that absolute clarity and definition to even micro details is just on another level. So they just didn't fit in this room. We were after a certain vintage look and vibe. And so this, like, the Revivals filled all of those requirements for us. I just think that, again, the Wilsons are on another level yet. So I didn't want you to think that like these are absolute, like the same thing as Wilson, but they fulfill and they check a lot of the boxes, I guess, you know, at a much more affordable price. The thing that I guess some people might ask after watching the video, though, is, again, would I pick Revivals over Wilson? And I don't think that I would, unless I was after a certain vintage look or I wanted a bigger, more robust soundstage. And the gap is kind of close because there's really good deals on Sabrina 1s out there right now, which are pretty close to Sabrina X. I mean, there's a little bit of differences. And so, you know, there might be a $2,000, like purchasing these new to a very nice pre-owned pair of Sabrinas. You know, there might be a $2,000 gap, $2,500 gap. You know, again, if I didn't want that vintage look and a lot, I would still probably go to Wilson, but they're just on another level. But again, like these are a great speaker and fulfill a lot of those gaps. So I just wanted to make those clarifications. They are different. Each one of those three that I mentioned are different from each other in a little nuanced ways. I also didn't want to leave you without some test tracks, because a lot of these videos that I watch, you know, I gather a lot of fun new music. So I'll pop them up here on the screen, the tracks that I listen to for some fun comparison. On the music, Wildflowers by Amber Rubarth. Fantastic song. You know, it's a slower, more jazzy song. Great for comparing the texture of female vocals. Very beautiful song. Eva Cassidy. This is kind of a hi-fi track out there, or album out there, but this track, Oh Had I a Golden Thread. Again, female vocals, you know, jazzy, good bass in it, good, you know, showcases the Revival's quick, you know, tight bass response, female vocal clarity and texture, romance to this song. It's a great track for that. Fortunate Son by Cat Power. This is kind of a different song, but I think this showcases the depth of soundstage and the layering. You can really tell how, you know, the positioning of people on stage, the front and back, the depth of the stage with this song. One of my favorite ones that I found was Marcus Philippe. And it looks like Angel Eyes is the actual track to this. They're all good. But with these Revivals, it sounded like the saxophone was going to come out of the speaker. And there you can really hear a lot of that air, that breath that musician is putting into that sax. And again, almost 3D. You know, you listen to these wind instruments and I almost felt like there was going to be like slobber coming out of the speakers, you know, because you hear so much of that air in addition to the actual sound of the saxophone coming through these speakers. It's just really fantastic. It's recorded very well. It must be a really close mic'd song to those instruments, but the fiddle in there, I believe it's a bass fiddle, that the bass and the lower frequencies that come from that and the plucking in that song is just off the charts, but a great test track. Another one, the last one that I'll leave you with is, this one's a little tough to pronounce, but Lucretia Dalt. And all of the songs in that entire album, I'll pop it up again, but just the background noises that she puts in there and all of the different sounds in addition to her beautiful voice. It's really fun to listen to on these Revivals. Again, it really showcases those 3D images. You know, if you close your eyes, it feels like these background noises are coming from way outside of the speaker, and sometimes you're kind of looking around as like, is the house making noise or somebody here, somebody coming in, but really good test track. So hopefully that's helpful and hopefully that's fun. Again, if I missed anything in closing, just put it down there in the comments. Happy to visit with you all about it. But again, now in closing, for real closing, real, enjoy the listening. We'll see y'all.